As we're going to cut right to the match because these guys are ready to go. Travis does have a shirt on.
He does have, known for streaming shirtless.
Yes, known for streaming shirtless. They have a happy birthday
Happy
sign
birthday, Ceddy. For those of you who don't know, it's Cedric Phillips' birthday today.
I'm 27 years young. Thank you, Travis and Jonathan. Very, very nice of you.
That
I do
is
appreciate
adorable.
it. It really is. It really, really is. And we're cutting into the match underway here. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we are starting up right here. Round one, of 9. Osip and I will be bringing you the coverage all weekend. We'll be talking about standard. We'll be breaking down the players that are in attendance, and we've got quite a few good ones here.
Yes, quite a few. And we actually have a great match for you here because you get to see a deck that you haven't seen that much play recently is the Mono Black Wolf Run, which I think, I guess Conley Woods sort of pioneered at the Pro Tour.
You know, Conley played a base black splash red version, splashing red mostly for slaughter games at the Pro Tour, and he ended up finishing in the top 16 there with that. Travis, this is a deck that he's been streaming some, and he's basically mono black yet again, basically utilizing Mutilate, but has found a way to get Kessig Wolford in his deck with the mighty Gruul Keyru.
Yes.
As we do see on the right-hand side, Jonathan Kornacki, he is an Open Series champion as well. He won an Open Series here in Vegas with Blue-Black Control many moons ago. You're going to see a Dreadboard take care of that Liliana of the Veil. He's going to play a Blood Crypt and just pass the turn. John Day, more traditional deck. Owen Turnwald did top 8 the Pro Tour with it. Reed Duke top 8'd Quebec with it. And I think, Osip, this is a deck that we're going to see a lot of this weekend.
Yeah, I think it's probably I would say, if not the most popular deck in the format, one of the most popular, just because you have answers to pretty much everything. You get to play Huntmaster, you get to play Thragtusk. You have cards like Slaughter Games against control decks and Rakdos Return. So I think it's just one of those cards that you get to wear down opponents with just over, really, your card quality is just much higher than most of the decks out there. And here you see a Rakdos Return for 3.
Speak of the devil and he shall appear.
Yeah, and that's just something that Travis's deck can't really deal with. Much like Sphinx's Revelation, any of the X spells, Travis doesn't have counter spells, and he doesn't have a lot of card drawing. He has 2 Sign and Bloods, but again, he really needs to try to get out ahead with a Crypt Ghost, a Crypt Ghast, and try to get a Grizzlebend in play somehow. But short of that, it's hard for him to deal with some of the X spells.
And Grizzlebrand is one of the cards that he did discard to Rakdos Return, also discarded a Mutilate and a Victim of Night. So now Travis is resolving his Far Seek, searches for his Blood Crypt, so he does have Wolf Run online now due to the Blood Crypt and Woodland Cemetery. And just a Vampire Nighthawk, and I think he has 1 card left in his hand.
Yeah, and we know Jonathan has an Abrupt Decay, so he can deal with the Nighthawk. Well, pretty good draws for Travis.
Yeah. In fact, not a Bonfire. Okay.
I think Jonathan might have a Bonfire in his hand.
Yeah, he does have 1 copy in his hand right now. As you're
So
going to see
he could
him
Bonfire for 3.
Yep.
Which is decent because he has the Abrupt Decay for the Thragtusk token. But again, I mean, considering Travis lost 3 cards to a Rakdos Return on turn 4 rather, not in bad shape.
Now we're going to see a Gruul
And then
Keyru.
the mighty Keyru.
Yes.
And a Pump.
A card that we're going to bring up on screen for you guys. This is a card, as you see Jonathan reading it, we're going to bring it up for you guys, wondering what that one does. It is an artifact from Gatecrash. It does turn into a 3/2 Trampler. Also taps for red and a green, but we'll bring up the visual for you so you can't actually see it. Travis now is cardless. You're going to see an Arbor Elf here from Jonathan. As you said, Osip, he does have that Abrupt Decay at the ready for whenever Travis does decide to move in here with the Wolf Run activation.
And I got to say, Travis isn't in nearly as bad shape as he was 3 turns ago because Jonathan doesn't have that many cards left in his hand either. Travis is still the aggressor right now, and he has 7 mana in play, which means that if he top decks a land and he manages to draw Grizzlebrand, he's right back in it.
Yeah.
He also has Olivia, which he can draw, which is also really good.
Murder's going to take care of the token. He decides to keep holding on to the Abrupt Decay, and he's
Yeah,
going to
there
take care
you
of the
go.
Gruul Keyru. Okay.
So now he's probably going to just go all in on the Arbor Elf with the Wolf Run of his own.
Yep, and that's what you're going to see. You're going to see a big-time battle here. Arbor Elf's going to come across for 5. Overgrown Tomb going to come into play tapped and pass. Both players just playing off the top of the deck right now. And the big question here is who does it favor when we're in a top decking war like this, which is what's probably going to happen a lot in this type of matchup of attrition. You know, looking for those game breakers, and Jonathan's deck does have a lot of removal, and neither deck has any card drawing for the most part.
The thing is that, even a card like Crypt Ghast, can be really good for Travis because of the fact that he's got Wolf Run in play, so he can. Oh, well, there it is. There's one of the cards that we thought if Travis was able to top deck, would bring him right back to the game.
Now, Olivia Voldaren, a card that you obviously see a lot in Jund decks because it does have access to quite a bit of red mana. Travis's deck doesn't have a ton of red mana, as we only see a Blood Crypt in play. So there's not going to be a lot of pinging with it. I think he's using it more as, the control magic, shoot once and then take your guy. So I don't think it has the same power level as it does have in a Jund deck, but it's still perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, he has it as a one-of. I think it's a reasonable threat if you top deck it. And again, he chose to block, probably assuming that it wasn't going to live anyway. So might as well just deal with the Arboreth and hope to top deck again. At 3 cards, it doesn't look like Jonathan's got much. I think he's got a Tragic Slip and a land here. Doesn't look like much is going on between the two. Not sure what Travis. It's basically going to come down to who top decks a Thragtusk first.
Yeah, it feels like that's kind of where we're at right now.
Especially
Travis,
with both players having Wolf Run, you really need to just get any threat out there. And the life totals are pretty reasonably low, where 1 or 2 swings will be it.
Travis has this distinct advantage because he, again, does have Gristlebrand in his deck. He plays a Blood Crypt untapped, and
there we
speaking
go.
of which, Gristlebrand is here, something that Jonathan doesn't have. He draws, looks to be a Huntmaster of the Fells.
So he has a Huntmaster and a Tragic Slip. But the problem is that Travis is going to swing for 7 and likely draw 7. So if, he could Tragic Slip the Grizzlebrand, but Travis is going to be up on a lot of cards here, so.
All right. So we're going to see the Wolf token come into play here. Jonathan's going to gain 2 life. I'm sure the spotter's getting the Wolf token for him, and there it is.
And he's got the Wolf Run for the Grizzlebrand too, so he's going to be able to do, I believe, 12.
Yeah,
he
looks
wants
like
to just go all in.
Looks like 12 right now. Game 12, deal 12, and then the world is his oyster from there.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best play, unless he just wants to. He can draw 7 here, and I guess he's choosing just to take 7, and he's casting the Mutilate. Oh.
Okay.
So Tragic Slip gets turned on.
Cryptcast is on.
Wow. Travis will be able to draw 7 in response if he chooses to. Seems like.
How do you feel about that Mutilate? Does he really need to do that?
Yeah, I think it's fine as long as he chooses to draw 7. I think it's reasonable.
Okay.
Because again, Jonathan doesn't have many cards in his hand. He's got a Cryptcast, which is threatening lethal next turn because of the Wolf Run.
Sure.
So I think he just wants to make sure he gets stuff out there. And besides, even if he doesn't mutilate, Jonathan's still going to be able to Tragic Slip the Grizzlebrand anyway.
Okay.
So.
As you guys do see Cryptcast on the screen there, card that's kind of having a lot more play than I thought it would once it was released. Adds double black for each swamp that you do tap, and then the Extort, not something to ignore.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those cards that you feel like if you're able to untap with it, you're in a really good position. The only thing is, I don't think we've seen a shell yet that truly exploits it. Grizzlebrand's obviously a great follow-up, but I think given the format and how aggressive it can be, these types of decks, you're putting a lot of pressure on drawing your Mutilate on turn 4. Basically.
Yeah.
So that's my only issue with these types of decks. But again, against mid-range decks, if they don't have an answer with a Cryptcast, you can do some pretty absurd things next turn. And it looks like he's just extorting Jonathan out right here.
Yeah, and he's doing some pretty absurd things, which
with the 4 Cryptcasts in play.
Only Travis. Only Travis, folks. So 4 Cryptcasts in play right now.
I wonder why Travis chose to not just attack and Wolf Run Jonathan. Maybe because I think he could still have Wolf Run and played another Cryptcast.
Yeah, I am also a little bit surprised, but I think this line of play allows him to just drain Jonathan all the way out. I think, yeah, and you're going to see a concession here. The attack with Cryptcast, moving with the Wolf Run, it could die to something. And that would make a little bit of sense as to why he doesn't want to move in that way, especially with his hand, how it lined up of having all those crypt gas and can drain him out that way.
Well, my only concern would be is I don't think that line of play kills Jonathan that turn. And if Jonathan top decks a Bonfire of the Dam, then suddenly Travis's board state, I mean, granted, he managed to get Jonathan down to 3 or 4, but, you know, if Jonathan top decks a Thragtusk, then suddenly the game just slips away. So I think if Travis was able to just play another Cryptcast and then attack and try to kill him with the Wolf Run, even if Jonathan does have removal spell there, he just does the exact same thing next turn anyway.
Sure.
So, and he doesn't expose himself too much to Bonfire. But either way, Travis wins the first game, coming back from a turn 4 Rakdos return.
Yeah, a little bit surprised that he was able to take that one down, getting a Rakdos return for a 3 there. But, you know, this is an attrition-based matchup. Players are going to be playing off the top of their deck, and while Jonathan probably has a few better draws than Travis in the matchup, he doesn't have anything that really compares to Gristlebrand as far as the top deck goes.
Well, that's always been the problem with Jund, is that, yeah, sure, you can cast these cards like Rakdos Return and empty your opponent's hand, but you don't have answers to cards like Sphinx's Revelation. So you're still very vulnerable to your opponent's top deck.
Yep.
And Travis there he drew really well. He managed to continue to make his hit mana drops. He was still able to be aggressive, forcing Jonathan to backpedal a little bit and continue to use removal spells. And eventually he top decked the Grizzlebrand and was able to get right back in it.
Now, taking a look at Jonathan's sideboard again, Jonathan Kornacki, a player from Arizona. He does have a standard Open Championship a couple years ago with Blue Black Control in this very room. Of course, he is playing Jund, a list that you guys are probably intimately familiar with now because of Owen Turtenwald's top 8 at Pro Tour Montreal, as well as Reed Duke's top 8 at Quebec City last week. You're going to find 3 Underworld connections that are going to come in here. You're also going to find 1 Staff of Min, which is becoming common in the sideboards to join us. He does have a copy of Acidic Slime in the sideboard. Reed played 2 last weekend. Jonathan does have 1. You can use those to kind of blow up those Kessig Wolf runs if he wants to. Travis's mana base is a little bit fragile because he is splashing black and green, so it can maybe color screw him there. 2 more copies of Rakdos Return, as Jonathan only has 1 in his main deck. You're also going to find 2 copies of Duress. He has a Bonfire of the Damned, which not really the time or place for that here, along with his Pillar of Flames, the 2 Grafdigger's Cages, and the Ground Seals. So he can definitely do what a rock deck has done in many years past, which is kind of board out those removal spells, board in those, heavier, control elements when you're in attrition war, like Underworld Connections and Staffing in, and just outdraw your opponent.
Yeah. And for Travis has some interesting cards. He's got 3 Slaughter Games, 3 Rakdos Return, 4 Gloom Surgeon, 1 Grizzlebrand, 1 Liliana of the Veil, 1 Curse of the Death Hold, 1 Olivia, and 1 Cavern of Souls. I'm not sure if he wants to bring in Slaughter Games right here. It could be possible that he wants to just say name Thragtusk or a Planeswalker, because he's a little vulnerable to Planeswalkers. So, maybe he wants to name Garrick, although Slaughter Game seems more like a sideboard card against Human Reanimator or Esper. So I'd imagine Rakdos Return is probably coming in, probably the 4th Grizzlebrand. Maybe the other Liliana, not really sure.
Sure.
But I would guess he's probably boarding out his Victim of the Nights, just because they're not very good against Huntmaster, not very good against Olivia. He can kill a Thragtusk, but I don't think that's really something he wants to be doing. He'd rather just block with his own Thragtusk or Thragtusk token. So I don't think he can't really afford to lose card advantage in this matchup. So if I had to guess, I'd say Rakdos Returning Grizzlebrand's coming in probably for a Victim of the Nights. So we'll see. And it looks like Travis decided to bring out the guns for this match.
Yeah, you talked about what's coming in. Let's talk about what's coming off, which is one of Travis's shirts. And if we're lucky, there's 2 more to go.
I feel like he's trying to really intimidate Jonathan.
Yeah. If you've watched Travis Wood TV, look at that. The hair, beautiful hair, guns. It's all there.
Jonathan was not expecting this for game 2.
Yeah. In his head now, without question. So you see both players shuffling up here, looking to see if they're going to keep their 7 hands. If you guys are just joining us, Osip Lebedovich?
Yes.
Yes, I got it. Cedric Phillips here at Star City Games Open Series in Vegas, round 1. Travis Wu on the left, up a game. He's made the trip from Seattle, Washington. Jonathan Kornacki from Arizona, down with his Jund deck. Travis, as you guys know, quite the brewer, loves his Wu brews, and has another one here with the Mono Black Splashing Wolf run. Jonathan, playing a more traditional Jund deck, is currently down a game, but has some very good sideboard cards to turn things around. So we'll see how these next 2 games are going to go.
Yeah, it's if Travis just gets to 8 mana, Grizzlebrand's similar to Sphinx's Revelation, where if he gets it in play, it's going to be tough for Jonathan to win. Jonathan doesn't have one. Travis, if he's a high enough life, he's going to be able to draw 7 no matter what. But the other thing is Jonathan doesn't have many answers to Grizzlebrand. He's got 2 Dreadbore, he's got 1 Murder, and he's got 3 Tragic Slip, but Tragic Slip's sort of conditional. And the other thing is Travis is bringing in those Rakdos returns. He also has Liliana in the Veil, so there's a chance that he's just going to be chipping away at Jonathan's hand and making him discard some of these remove spells early anyway.
Sure.
So a top deck Grizzlebrand is likely going to win the game for Travis, and that's the one advantage that Travis has, I think, after board.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we saw in game 1. Both players just kind of eliminated each player's hands. We saw a Rakdos return from Jonathan. He started drawing a few lands in the mid-game. And Travis was able to cobble together a couple more lands, top deck a Grizzlebrand, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to those types of matches where everyone's just discarding their hand, I think the best thing Jonathan can top deck is probably a Garrett Primal Hunter, whereas Travis has 4 Grizzlebrands, which is obviously a bigger trump.
As we do see Jonathan resolve a Farseek here. His mana is online now, so he does search for a Stomping Ground. Travis is going to Farseek as well, so both players are accelerating, are fixing their mana. We'll probably see Travis get a red source here, likely a Blood Crypt, but I could be wrong. So we do see in Jonathan's hand, he does have an Acidic Slime. He also does have an Underworld Connections as well. So as far as, that game of trying to keep up on cards and being able to get ahead, Jonathan looks like he's going to be able to play it pretty well so far.
Yeah, he definitely has the start that he needed. If Travis didn't have that Farseek, I would say this game might almost be over, but Jonathan starts still exactly what he wants. He's going to be able to Farseek on turn 2, draw a card on turn 3, play either a Thragtusk or more likely an Acidic Slime on turn 4, which is exactly the type of start Jonathan wants against Travis.
And Underworld Connection Osip is a card that we're going to bring up for you guys because I know when I first saw this card, it reminds you very much of Phyrexian Arena, and cards like this have always seen a lot of competitive play. And it was just kind of a matter of time until we started seeing this card either in main decks or sideboards to be able to be control mirrors. And it's really showed up on the scene, especially from that Pro Tour and just in Jund decks in general, to be able to win the mirror and win these attrition type matchups. And it's a kind of card that wins over the long haul of the game, but you kind of lose the game because of it more than you realize. It's kind of innocuous. It doesn't have this huge effect like Grizzlebrand does, but over time it's the card that wins you the game.
Yeah, it's having a constant card drawing source is just. I mean, you saw how the last game went. Both of them were trying to top deck. Jonathan is just at a much bigger advantage because he's able to draw a card each turn, and there's nothing in Travis's deck that has that type of reusable source. A card like Staffinen, that's why you see so many people board in Staffinen. It's the same thing. It's just this reusable card drawing source that's so important in these attrition-based matchups.
And you see that Jonathan has put his Underworld Connections on his Stomping Ground. One thing to note about that is he does have Arbor Elf in his deck, so he can actually draw a card, untap the forest with Arbor Elf, draw another card. Just a small interaction with this deck that's kind of neat. I was surprised when I saw Arbor Elf in the deck list that Owen and Reed were playing at the Pro Tour, kind of wondering what it was doing there, but after talking with them, they basically said, it's Farseek's 5 and 6, with a little bit of synergy in the deck. It does have its ups and downs, it's a bad top deck, it's bad with against mass removal, stuff like that, but, there are definitely some bonuses to it, and when you do have it in your opener, it kind of accelerates your draw quite a bit.
Yeah, I think it's one of those cards that it just, you don't want to play 4, but I think 2 is just a great number because if you think of it like Farseek 5 and 6, it makes perfect sense. You saw how important Farseek is in the mirrors.
Yeah.
So I think if you just think of it that way, it makes perfect sense.
And now you're going to see a Rakdos return here from Travis for 3, which would typically be backbreaking, as we saw in the previous game. Jonathan Rakdos returned for 3, and it was a huge beating. Travis ended up drawing out of it and winning the game, but because of that Underworld Connections there, as Jonathan did activate it and draw a card to get more information on what to discard, you see it's just not that big of a deal. Jonathan is ahead on the board. He has a way to keep drawing 2 cards a turn as he draws a Duress and already has a Thragtusk. And it's, really, it's how good is that Rakdos return there? Not very.
Yeah, I think that's a spell that Travis basically just needed to cast in order to try to gain some sort of foothold in this matchup, but the fact is Jonathan's just way too far ahead at this point for Rakdos' return to be too backbreaking. He's already got 6 mana in play, he's got 2 threats, and he's got connections. So there's really nothing you're going to make Jonathan discard where it's going to be backbreaking. And again, he discarded an Arbor Elf, a Farseek, and I think just another random spell. So nothing really too important on Jonathan's side.
And Jonathan does have that Thragtusk as his last card. He's going to come across for 7 here. And now he's considering, do I want to cast this Thragtusk? Do I want to draw an extra card? But I think you just play the Thragtusk.
Get it out there.
Yeah, get this game over with.
You already got rid of one of the Mutilates. Worst case scenario, Travis top decks another Mutilate. You're still left with 2 3s, and you drop Travis down to 5 next turn. Like, pretty much have to go for it every time.
So now Travis is going to play Blood Crypt. He's going to play Olivia Valderin. He's only got 1 mana available, just that Swamp. So, Olivia can't block very well here. Jonathan going to draw another card with the Underworld Connections. And the other nice thing about Underworld Connections in this deck, and you've seen it in years past in other mono black decks, is of course that they can gain a lot of life to kind of offset the damage that they're taking. Mono black decks of years past had cards like Corrupt and Soulburn to be able to gain life back. This deck has Thragtusk and Huntmaster of the Fells, so you're paying a life, but you're really not.
Yeah, that's really why it's so. It's kind of just such a great card in this deck because of the amount of life gain you can gain. So it really, the life loss almost has no impact on you in the matchups where you're bringing it in. And Olivia looks like more or less just like a chump blocker.
Yeah.
Right now, Jonathan's threatening lethal with the attack. He can block 1 Thragtusk and go down to 4, and then he's pretty much hoping to top deck a Mutilate.
So that's what he's going to do. He's going to jump in front of the Thragtusk there. He's going to end up taking 7, get a Beast token. Yeah, and it is pretty big on Travis to draw a Mutilate here.
Yeah.
A Thragtusk would also be pretty good.
Thragtusk would be fine, yeah.
And we are working on getting the exact life totals correct for you guys right now. We'll be getting that information radio in from our spotter for you guys. But we're going to see a Sign in Blood here from Travis. He's going to draw 2, he's going to take 2. Let's see if he finds an answer. Another Sign in Blood.
And that looks like it.
Yeah, that's going to be right.
So yeah, Jonathan had pretty much the exact start he needed against Travis. He had the mana advantage. He managed to get a Farseek into an Underworld. He managed to get the Acidic Slime to slow Travis down. And again, Acidic Slime is not a card that we mentioned, but that's another huge card in this matchup. I mean, Jonathan only has 1, but mana advantage is huge in this type of matchup, and putting him behind the turn basically allows you to steal the advantage. If you're on the play, it lets you press forward a little more. If you're on the draw, it lets you try to steal the turn back. Yeah. So, kind of the perfect start for Jonathan in that game.
Yeah, I mean, as far as ideal hands go, you got a turn 2 Farseek, a turn 3 Underworld Connections plus drawing a card, turn 4 Acidic Slime, turn 5 Thragtusk. I think that's how you draw it up before you come to the tournament.
Although I gotta say, the funny thing is that despite that start from Jonathan, Travis really wasn't in that bad shape if Jonathan didn't top draw a Duress.
Yeah.
Because he would have been able to keep the Mutilate, and eventually Travis would have been able to get to 8 lands and play that Grizzlebrand. He would have been low,
sure,
but the way the life gain works, he would have been able to pretty much stop Jonathan in his chest, because Jonathan didn't have any more gas. He still had the Underworld Connection, but he only had 1 card in his hand, which was, I believe, another Duress. So really, despite the great start from Jonathan, really a perfect. He drew a 1-of. He drew both his sideboard cards early on. Got the Farseek. Drew another one of his sideboard cards exactly the turn he needed it. So a great start from Jonathan, but Travis really could have pulled out of it, given maybe a slight different turn of events. So I gotta say, things don't look too bad for Travis in this game 3.
Yeah, no, I think the matchup is pretty close. The decks are a little bit different, but they're trying to accomplish the same thing here. They go about doing it in different ways, but they are, your black-based board control decks. That's what they are. They can attack the hand, they can gain some life, draw some extra cards, do that sort of thing, but they are board control decks that are pretty reliant on their draw steps each game. Now, the kind of interesting here, and we saw it in game 2, where you kind of, you basically said it just a little bit, but how important Farseek is in this matchup.
Yeah.
Jonathan had one, and if Travis doesn't have one, it's basically a disaster.
Yeah.
You're not even playing the same game, really, because you're just a full turn behind.
Yeah, that game would have been over if Travis didn't have the Farseek. But one thing about Travis's deck that I'm a little confused by is why he doesn't play Underworld Connections. Because a deck like this seems to really want a card like Underworld Connection or Staff and Nim, and it seems like he could easily fit it in his sideboard if he wanted to, yet he chose not to. And again, Sign in Blood is a reasonable card drawing spell, but I don't think it's exactly, it's not great in this matchup. You know, you really want something like Staff and Nim or Sign in Blood. So it'd be interesting to see if Travis just didn't like it in his deck, or maybe he didn't think it was good enough against Jund, or he thought his Jund matchup was already really good. I'm not sure, but if I was going to build a mono black control deck, Underworld Connection is definitely one of those sideboard cards that you want, I think, in your sideboard.
Yeah. I think you have to have a pretty good reason not to play it, as we just saw in that game from Kornacki's side, just being able to dominate with it.
Yeah.
You know, again, it's not something that really is in your face really good, but over the course of a game, you realize that's the card that you're actually losing to.
Yeah.
So we do see both players going to keep their 7. Travis is going to start off with a...
I think Jonathan might have mulliganed.
Okay, Jonathan did take a mulligan.
Six.
Thank you. What you do see is an Overgrown Tomb there from Travis. His hand is 2 copies of Mutilate, a Gristlebrand, a Rakdos Return, a Gruul Keyrune, and a Woodland Cemetery.
It seems like a strange keep for Travis, given the fact that if Jonathan takes that Gruul Keyrune,
yeah, he's
that
in a
hand
world
looks
of trouble.
much. I don't know how good Mutilate is on the play in this matchup. I mean, granted he has a Grizzlebrand, but having only 2 lands and a Keyrune, knowing your opponent has Abrupt Decays, that's a little risky play. Because again, we told you how important mana is. I don't know. It seems like I guess he felt Grizzlebrand was probably just so good in this matchup that he wanted to make sure that he drew it, but. Oh, looks like Travis doesn't draw a land, but he does draw a Farseek.
Oh, so he draws a land that he can cast.
Yeah.
As you do see, Jonathan is Farseeking as well. So Travis did miss his land drop, so he does Farseek to hit his 3rd land. But Jonathan, again, is going to be ahead on mana sources.
Yeah.
This is basically what we saw in the last game.
Yep. So, you know, because Travis missed his land drop, despite his Farseek, Jonathan also had a Farseek, so it allows him to stay ahead of things. So, looks like Jonathan does have a 4th land for a Huntmaster, which again, I mean, Travis can top deck a land just to Mutilate here, but
that's step 1.
That's step 1, yeah. Jonathan's still going to be trying to pour out threats here, hopefully.
Yeah, so you do see a Mutilate there from Travis, one of the 2 that he does have in his hand. Jonathan knows about them from the Duress. And now we're going to see Olivia Voldaren here. And Travis can Mutilate this away as well, because he does have an Overgrown Tomb, a Blood Crypt, and a Swamp. You know, trading 1 for 1 with Mutilate is not especially great, though.
Well, he did draw Sign in Blood. I think he might want to cast the Sign in Blood and try to build up his mana a little bit more, because Olivia's not threatening you right now. I mean, yeah, you'll take 3, but you're really, I think you run it. Well, he chose to Mutilate. It's interesting there, because the issue with the Mutilate play is if your opponent has a follow-up, which he's likely going to play because he doesn't have a Wolfland, he wants to keep putting pressure on Travis.
Sure.
Even though he knows about the Mutilate, he can't not play a card like Thragtusk.
Sure.
So I think Travis really just wants mana here. So a Sign in Blood kind of would have helped him dig for lands and continue to making his land drops. Now he's in a really bad spot because Jonathan basically has a threat in play, and now he's going to start picking away at Travis's hand. So it's going to be interesting to see what Travis can kind of pull out here.
So what you guys saw on Travis's turn is he did Rakdos Return Jonathan for 2 to clear out his last 2 cards, which were a Thragtusk and a Murder. Jonathan, with no cards in his hand, drew a Liliana the Veil, came across with a Thragtusk, and then played the Liliana and upped it because he doesn't have any cards in his hand. Travis now is going to draw 2 cards with that Sign in Blood that we've talked about. And he's facing pressure from 2 different angles now. His hand is being attacked, and he's being attacked by Thragtusk, which is obviously an incredibly durable threat. So the Sign in Blood is going to have to provide something here.
Yeah.
Because Thragtusk is presenting a clock, Liliana's moving up, as we're going to see a Farseek here from Kornacki to get a land out of his deck. He's going to tick Liliana up, and now Travis's hand is under attack. The threat of Liliana's ultimate is very realistic now, and Thragtusk is attacking his life total.
And not only that, he can't even play a card like Cryptghast or I was actually going to say he can't play 1, but if you play both, at least that gets you around Liliana.
Sure.
So Travis can suddenly because of those 2 cards, Jonathan will make him sack 1. Travis will likely sack the Nighthawk. Drops to 4 with from the Thragtusk hit, and then he can play the Grizzlebrand in his hand off the Cryptcast. But so Jonathan actually suddenly really needs to top deck something big here, like a Dreadbore.
So he's going to move it down to 3, and predictably, Travis is going to sacrifice the Vampire Nighthawk. Jonathan going to come across for 5, and
wow,
okay,
what a top deck!
That is a rack to return. That is a handshake from Travis.
That's again. It all comes down to top decks. No matter how good your start is, it still all comes down to the top decks in this matchup, because had Jonathan just drawn a land there, or like another Liliana, or even a Huntmaster probably, I think Travis still can pull that game out, because he plays the Grizzlebrand, and the lifelink from the Grizzlebrand will get him right back in it. So pretty crazy how...
It's actually a huge draw step. I think he has to find something that is very, very good that turn.
Yeah, if it's an Arbor Elf, a Huntmaster, a Tragic Slip maybe doesn't even do it.
He's got a fair amount of bad draws in that situation.
Farseek, a land, any land.
Yeah.
So yeah, a number of cards that would have just been dead. But again, he had 2 draw steps, so not unreasonable. But yeah, again, no matter how good your start is in these types of attrition-based matchups, it still ends up coming down to what card is on top of your deck.